Let's tune in live into our hot podcast, Imbawula Azishe Imbawula.
Season 1 of Imbawula Queer Podcasts focuses on a theme of Black queer joy. Episode 1 is a discussion on the joys of radical queer friendships. Radical queer friendship is a type of friendship that goes beyond just forming deep bonds. It involved shared values and a mutual commitment against injustice, rooted in solidarity and practices of empathy. Naturally, this means having difficult conversations and sharing uncomfortable truths.
Hi, hello everyone. I am Merique, pronouns he, they, boss, bitch.
Hi, I'm Mangwane. I use she, they pronouns. And
my name is Kgotso Molefe, and I use they, them.
Hi, my name is Naledi Ngomsolethu Mnukwa, joining you from Vanderbijl Park in Gauteng, and I use she, her, they, them pronouns.
Welcome to Imbawula, Season 1, Episode 1, Azishe. And our theme for the season, our very first season, is Black Queer Joy. And what else brings us joy than the relationships we keep and the people we're surrounded by, especially if it's by choice. And so our first topic for our first episode is the importance of radical queer friendships. And so really what I want to know from you guys actually is, why do you feel that it's important for you as queer bodies to be surrounded by other queer people?
So I'll just go first. I feel like as queer people, when we grow up and we socialize for the first time outside of our families, we get shunned, and pushed to the sides of things. It's we always feel uncomfortable, because the world is not made for us. So when we find that one or two persons in our communities, we gravitate normally or naturally to one another and just find safety in them. That's why I feel like it's important for not important, but why normally we are we always see a group of queer people together. The important part is there's safety in numbers, because for queer people navigating society, this heteronormative society, it's unsafe. And yeah, that's my chat on that.
In radical friendships and in radical platonic love, there exists so much honesty, there exists so much vulnerability, and I think many queer people who experience or who get the privilege of experiencing radical friendship within queer spaces know of a love that is true, know of a love that allows an open space for vulnerability and open space for so much learning and unlearning, and allows you to hold and be held. And that alone creates an environment that builds community. And I think as the LGBTQIA plus community, we always emphasize the importance of community and solidarity. And I think radical friendships that are created in queerness and in these spaces that we find ourselves in then allow for everything else that we as queer people aim to achieve or aim to dismantle, for all of that to exist.
I think I definitely agree for me, I think one of the most important feelings that I always express is that when I'm surrounded by queer people is I feel at home. And, it's often weird because I'm not the most loudest personality of the room. I'm not the most visible. But even in my silence, what someone may interpret as, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I feel at home, I feel safe. My spirit is at rest. So I definitely agree with that. And I love what you said about the fact that, there's really some form of a radicalness in numbers, because we aren't safe. So when we are able to create those pockets of queer joy where we fellowship with one another, I think that's always very beautiful.
Another thing is that you mentioned something about freedom. When you're still in a closet and you have those friends that you have at the moment, there are things you cannot discuss with them. There are things you just cannot say. So having that, I call it a clique, that group, that friendship with queer people gives you the friendship, gives you the freedom to somehow discuss everything freely, without filtering what you're saying, without thinking what is the next person is gonna think of me. But it's just like about saying it as it is. So yes, that.
Can I just, like, while listening to both of you, I just, like, a memory came to me, like, not a few years ago, like maybe when I was like in high school. I realized that, like, I'm different when I'm with my friends and then when I'm with my family. When I'm with my family, I'm more reserved. Not that I was hiding who I was. I wasn't outspoken. I wasn't loud. I wasn't flamboyant. I wasn't, like, I was just there. I was just existing, like, hoping to be on the sidelines, not to be noticed. But when I'm with my friends, my queer friends, I want to be seen because I feel seen. I want to be heard. Like, it's just, it feels like you say, it feels like home when we're around, like, queer people, around our people. And it's a beautiful thing. It's one of the, like, many joys for me as a queer person is to know that there are others like me and that I belong somewhere.
And I love that. And I was just thinking as you were speaking, because I feel the same way about myself when I'm with my family. In fact, they've called me out on it. And they're like, when you're with your friends, you seem more joyous, seem more free. With us, you're very...
This is the way it ends.
And you don't want to come out and offend people and say, oh, it's because you don't understand me.
Yes.
But that's literally what it is. You were explaining how when you're with your friends who might not be queer, there's things that you often have to explain. And even in that explaining, there's just some things that you can never explain enough to allow someone to understand if they haven't had that experience.
And I think in our vulnerability as queer people and within the vulnerability that we allow and hold space for in radical friendships, there exists so much power, and that then allows change to take place, because of how easy it becomes for us to create languages or conjure languages that we are able to understand amongst each other as queer people.
So I definitely agree with what you're saying. And I think that's what makes the friendship or the kinship amongst queer folk really radical, particularly when we're so ostracized and there's so much violence that's targeted towards us. I think that belonging that we find in each other, the fact that in a world that wants us to despair and to be depressed and to hide ourselves and to not exist, we are able to create environments for each other that allow us to be joyful and express joy. And that's what this entire podcast is trying to do, and hoping we can encourage our audience to do the same.
Yeah, that feel like most authentic life.
Okay, so when you said when we are around our friends who are not queer, let's say heterosexual friends, it brought back something that happened to me last month. I was I messed around, and then I was sort of like debriefing with my friend about the sex I had yesterday, the guy I met and everything, and the conversation was disconnected in a way. You could see the confusion. And the questions she kept asking were kind of like... But then a month later, I was telling the same story to my queer friend, and the reaction that I got was a whole different... It's not that I'm saying that queer people should not be friends with hetero people, but queer friendships are just different. They're out of the sort.
Really?
They are the woolies of friendships.
Period. I really agree with that.
Okay, so this just leads me to like a question that I want to ask, because we've discussed like how we as queer people felt or feel more comfortable in queer friendships than in like mixed friendships with like cis-het people.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're not trying to other ourselves in this movement. It's not us against them. It's us with them. Like, we are all human. That's what this movement is about. So my question to you is just something that like, and don't feel it that Kgotso. My question to you is, how can we share our joy like with our like the heterosexual siblings? Like how can we like feel like what can we do, what can they do for us to feel like we belong there? Yes, well, even like the way that I'm speaking right now, I can hear that I'm also othering ourselves because that's how we are conditioned, because it's us against them. We're wrong, they're right. So just like for the three of us, like how can we share our joy, like the joy that we share as queer people, like amongst ourselves with our straight siblings?
So what I find draining about having a conversation with a cis person is that during that conversation, you're telling the tea while you also providing the sensitivity training, you're also being the teacher and everything. But then how can we include them as one of us? It's obviously through teaching and learning, explaining all these things to them. They may not have clarity on certain aspects of our lives, but I think it takes patience from us, to be patient with them and explain to them as it goes. Another thing that I've noticed is that short people they're so heteronormative. They have this patriarchal mind that there must be a wife and a husband in everything, and it's not always like that. So it is our duty as activists to educate those who are uneducated, teaching them that gender is fluid and can be as fluid as it can.
Yeah, I think that the binary like norm that straight people exist in makes it difficult for them to understand just how freeing, how like very fluid queerness is. Like Kgotso mentioned that gender is fluid. There's not just like man and woman, there's non-binary, there's queer gender, there's no gender, there's transgender, there's everything and anything. And so with sexual orientation, it's like well as intersex. I know. It's beautiful. And so I know that's we need to represent people, follow us. So I lost my train of thought, people.
No, I think I'll jump in here. So, with the same question that you were asking, Kgotso, I had the exact same thought that you were having around educate. But then when I think of education, I think of a very archaic, a very structured, formal thing. And what you said really helped frame my thinking was the fact that there's an exercise of patience, there's an exercise of generosity. And I am saying this in particular to straight folks or cis folks, that exercise of generosity that we offer to you, remember to offer it back to us. Okay, speak out for queer folks. So it's all good and well to sit and ask me, oh, how do you have sex and with another woman or whatever? And I might tell you because I might be a patient person. Someone else might not like it. But what if I've given you that piece of information? Don't go and then use that to go talk like BS about queer people or frame queer people as people that are sexually irresponsible or framing queerness as an acceptable or legal perversion. There's more to us than just the sexual aspect, and in terms of a lot of other things. So for me, I think that act of generosity and patience, as we offer it as queer people, I think I also would love it if cis and straight folks offered that.
But also,
yeah.
So when you're saying, when you think of education, you're thinking of structure. Not every education session needs to be in the form of a class that you say, friend, here's a gender-breed man. This is sexual orientation. This is sexual identity. You can just throw it in a conversation as casual as it might be. We're like, no, friend, we don't use that word. We use this word. No, there's difference between non-binary and gay and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be a formal, structured, facilitated session. But then in our casual friendships, in our casual sittings, it doesn't have to be a full session. You can just learning one thing in a day is more than enough. Yes, it can make a difference. It can go.
Question for you guys. Go ahead, Sarah. But do you think like straight folks are like willing to listen to us and like are they keen to listen to us and grab the information that we're trying to get in?
That's what like my answer to the question that I asked. This is like all good and well for us to share our joy, to be open to educating them, to inviting them to the spaces that we consider like to feel that to be safe. But are they open? Like they generally not open to learn. They are not like, what's the word now? Like they don't reciprocate our like generosity. So it's quite difficult. And it's something for us to continue to think about as activists is to how can we like unify South Africa, like Africa, the world, so that we are not 20 years from now, like or 10 years from now, us against them, queer people, straight people, that we are one human race. With that being said, I would very much like to say thank you so much for listening to us on our first podcast episode. We have some homework for you. Is to think about the last question we asked and continue this conversation on our socials, which will be in our profile.
Yay, thank you so much for listening to our first episode on Imbaula, the queer podcast, and Azishe.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Imbaula
Podcast.
Follow us and continue to slay.